Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, the top 10 items to consider before climbing Africa's highest mountain. So here's Kilimanjaro. This is that classic picture that we all think from the Lion King, right? The acacia tree, the snow-covered mountain. This is actually from Kenya, looking into Tanzania. But you can see that this is what it kind of looks like. And tonight, that is the highest point right there in Africa at 19,341 feet. And I bet some of you tonight are interested in maybe climbing it, right? And you can climb Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro is what we call everyone's Mount Everest, meaning everyone can do it if they take the time to train and logically plan for how to get to the top of Kili. This is one of my favorite pictures of Kilimanjaro. It's a younger group of people, but they're at the top. They're super pumped. They're excited. They just come up the Western Breach, one of the routes that's done by less than 1% of the climbers. But I love this, the energy of being up there. It's an amazing place to stand and watch the sunrise over Africa, right? And here's another group, and that's me actually there with the thumb up. That was probably close to 20 years ago. And this is a group standing at the glaciers that all the people on Kilimanjaro want to come and see. And this gentleman right here, actually, I believe turned 70 on this adventure climbing up there. So that's an amazing feat. We have a lot of 70-year-olds that, not a lot, but a decent amount that climb Kili. So tonight, any questions, you can also email me at embarkexplorationco.com. This is our website, embarkexplorationco.com. Our YouTube site, I would say this probably has 50 videos of Kilimanjaro, different playlists if you want to see. And we're just launching also climbmountkilimanjaro.org. There'll be lots of information. So all different ways to get in touch with me if you're trying to learn about climbing Kili, right? So let's get started. Time of year. When is the best time of year for you? This is something that you need to consider, right? And everyone always says, well, Donovan, what is the best time of year? Well, let's think about it, right? We have a short dry season, which is January through March, and we have a long dry season, which is mid-June through October. Sometimes at the beginning of June, sometimes goes into a little bit into November. So Kilimanjaro is climbed 8, 9 months out of the year. That means for you, you can consider what month is best for you, right? This is a really cool chart. There's lots to take in here. Left-hand side of the screen, the check boxes are the months that people go, right? So you can kind of see January, February, March, right? You can see all the way down. The next one over is the sun. How hot is it? It's generally hotter in January and February. See the 3 suns that are over there, right? Next one over, rain. There's always a little bit of rain in Kilimanjaro, but most of the rain comes in April and May and November, right? So then clouds, cloud cover. When do you have a lot of cloud cover? April, May, and also November. And then people, right? Lots of people, few people, medium amount of people. People are climbing. There's a lot of people that climb in January and February, and then July, August, and maybe some into September. My personal favorite 2 months to climb is March trips, right? Less people, weather's still good, not too hot, right? And also October, same thing. I like going up Kilimanjaro these times. I also like September. September can be really busy and dry. So these are things to consider. This is available for you to look at on our climboutkilimanjaro.org website, but you can get an idea of what to expect. Listen, you can climb it most of the year, right? Stay off it in April and May, and then plan what works best for you, right? Remember, mountains always have their own weather system. And the most important thing, too, is climate is what you can expect, but weather is what you get. So, regardless if you're going in a dry time on Kilimanjaro, it actually might have some rain or snow. You never know. But you must know that you must prepare for it in the same way, regardless of the time of year. Number two thing to consider, training. Do you have 3 to 4 months to dedicate to training? Very, very, very important. Okay. So let's look at what that looks like. The only way to become a better hiker is to hike. You must do physical training and you have to do some mental training. And we'll get into what that means, right? So, physical training, cardio fitness, aerobic training 2 to 4 times per week. That seems like a lot, but it's something you have to do. What I always tell people is the more that you train for the trip, the more you will enjoy your experience on the mountain. So, how do I train? Walking, running, jogging, stair climbing, elliptical, walk up hills and down hills. You must be able to work toward training using cardio base. You can do some strength training, you can do some stretching and some yoga, but ultimately you're going to do a lot of cardio based things. And that can just be walking, that can just be hiking, right? So you're going to climb, your climb will be anywhere from 35 to 45 miles long, right? So that's going to take some training to be able to do that, right? Remember, you also have half the oxygen that you have at sea level on top of Kili. So you must be able to train, right? So mental training. What mental training do I have to do? You should practice hiking super long distances, 12 miles, 14 miles, 16 miles, really grinding it out. Extreme cold, windy weather, multiple days of hiking. You must have grit. Everybody talks about grit these days, right? You must be able to grind it out because what's going to happen is you're going to spend 8 days up on the mountain and it's going to beat you down in lots of different ways. Weather, sleeping outside, everything's a little bit different. Oxygen, right? So you have to have that mental training for it. Why also? You're going to be asked to do a 12 to 16-hour hike. Ask yourself, when is the last time you hiked 12 to 16 hours after many days of hiking, right? It's hard. It's physically hard, right? So a climber from Florida might have trouble training for a trip in September, right? Climber from Wisconsin might have trouble training for a February trip, right? Because it's maybe windy or snowy. Florida, can you walk and train in August? Up to you. But can you train the 4 months prior is very important. And this is what a training plan. I see someone posted a question. Do you have a training plan? Yes, this is what a training plan looks like. It doesn't have all 16 weeks, but I want you to look at the bottom at week 9 through 12 and look at some of those things. Look at the Saturday, right? The Saturday has an 8 to 10 mile hike, 1,500 feet of elevation gain, 12-pound pack, right? This is just a framework. It is not an exact science. People want an exact, this is just a framework of what to do. Week 10, 8 to 10 miles, 2,000 feet of elevation gain, 15-pound pack. If you follow scenarios like this, you'll be able to climb Kili. Now, if you look during the midweek, it might only have something like 45 minutes strength training, right? 20 minutes of yoga, strength training. These are all of the pieces of what it takes to climb the mountain. And if you want a copy of this, I think Patricia, who just commented, you can actually just reach out to me and I'll send you a copy of that. All right. Quality, right? Super important. Get on the website, all these Kilimanjaro trips. Where do I start? There's hundreds of companies, right? Is quality important to you? Maybe it's not, right? So consider the following if you're looking for a trip. Permits, transfers, hotels, are they included, right? The permit on Kilimanjaro is very expensive. Ratio of guides and porters per person, right? Ethical treatment of porters, super big topic on Kilimanjaro, right? Maybe not everyone has ethical treatments of porters up on the mountain, right? Quality of the guides, right? Quality people who have lots of experience dealing with all sorts of different scenarios, right? US based representation has some advantages for sure, right? Comprehensive safety plan, super important, right? Food, is the food good? Gonna eat food outside, fried chicken for 8 days on the mountain? Probably not. Bathrooms, do they carry bathrooms? All of this kind of comes together to think about what is quality. Certain things, ethical treatment appointments, that affects the price with lots of different companies because if they're paying right, they're doing things, their costs are more, right? Comprehensive safety plan. Lots of people come down Kilimanjaro because they can't make it. How do you get them down? What if someone can't physically walk down? All of these things are important. Food as well, and we'll look at what that looks like. So here's a group on Kilimanjaro. This group is on Kilimanjaro right now. I just put this in the slide deck today, right? And so here they are, they're making their way up, they're sitting inside a nice tent on chairs, even some getting ready to have a meal here, right? But it's showing that there's a high level quality. Are is are they doing medical checks for you in the morning and the evening, checking? Do you have diarrhea, nausea, right? Have you had a headache for multiple days? That's very, very important to make sure that you safely get to the top and safely get down. Food, is the food quality like this, or is it just, like I said, boiled eggs and fried chicken? It just varies. So take those into consideration as you choose your selection of different companies to potentially work with, right? So summit night, big, big thing. Do you have what it takes? Okay, this is a really, really important slide. It's difficult. Summit night is difficult. It's still difficult for me. For some, summit night is the hardest 12 to 16 hours of your life. It is hard. It is really hard, but it's also incredibly rewarding because you get through it as a collective body of people, right? So look, this is what you're going to do on summit night. That is 3 miles. That 3 miles could take you 7 to 8 hours. 3 miles, take that in, right? That's not that far, right? You can usually walk that in a very short period. Half the oxygen that you have at sea level. That's not even the top of Kili, right? The top of Kili is over there. So you arrive at Stella Point, 18,885 feet. Then you got to walk over to 19,341 feet to watch the sunrise over Africa, right? So do you have what it takes? The weather up here can be crazy. The average amount of time a group is at the sign on Kilimanjaro is 5 minutes, and maybe sometimes even a lot less because it's cold, unpredictable, right? Lots going on, people not feeling good. So take that into consideration. Do you have what it takes, right? So this is what it looks like. You're walking up in the middle of the night with your group of people. I love this picture so much, right? If it's windy, you might take a 3 minute break every hour for 8 hours because it's cold when it's windy and cold. You just don't even want to stop, but you're so tired. Remember, you're starting this climb usually 11:30, 12, 12:30 at night to get up to the ridge, right? You're going to do that at night and you're going to get to close to the top. But when the sun comes up and it starts to rise, you are going to realize that you are going to potentially make it right here. The hardest part, however, is also the 10,000. It's less than 10,000, but it's, over 9,000 foot descent, right? So this is that descent. This is scree, right? And the scree is not easy to walk on, right? And that's where you're hiking back to. This is halfway back down. That's where you started in the morning. That is Barafu camp. But that's actually the other arrow on the right is where you're going to go to. So 15,500 feet and 10,170 feet. So you have to descend from the summit back down to where you started. This will take 3 hours or 4 hours, right? You're going to get back to where you started. You're going to maybe sleep for an hour, eat for an hour. Then you have to pack up and descend all the way down. So why are we descending down to 10,000 feet in one day? Everyone asks me, they say it's impractical. Well, two reasons. One, people feel better when they're under 10,000 feet. They feel better. You don't always feel good at higher elevations. Two, wind and weather. It's better to be down into the trees on Kilimanjaro. So that night, if you take it collectively as a whole, it's going to be about 4,000 feet of ascent and like 9,500 feet of descent to get down. That's your 14, 15, 16-hour day. It's crazy. And that final 3 hours, and that's me right there on the side, that final 3 hours is a super pain in the butt. And the reason is because you're walking in riverbed for the last 2 to 3 hours. It's very, very hard on your final hour 13, hour 14, hour 15, right? All right. Number 5, we're cruising right through here. It might be longer than 20 minutes, right? So do you want to join a group or be just with your friends, your family, right? Lots of times there's only people that's like 1 or 2 people, and we're like, well, we want to climb Kilimanjaro. If you want to join a group of people, you should reach out far in advance. Most companies have private trips, but if you want to find a group of people, you need to book much earlier. You need to find those people that you're going to plan for, right? So that's like 8 to 14 months in advance. That seems like a long time. Why would I care? Well, you got to find people that want to go the month you want to go, the time of year you want to go, right? And that's not always easy because there's not all like a group going up every single day for lots of different outfitters. They might have a group of once a week or things like that. So you have to take that into consideration. Confirm with whoever you work with that there are others on the adventure if you want to join with a group of people. Otherwise, if you want your own private trip, lots of outfitters will do that. Some people prefer groups, right? Number 6, which route should you take and why, right? Usually about 6 main routes up Kilimanjaro, and I'm going to tell you just the gist of Marengo route. It's too short, too quick. This is called the Coca-Cola route. So if you look at Kilimanjaro and you look on the eastern side, it's kind of flat and goes down. That is the quickest way to climb Kilimanjaro, not exactly the safest way to climb it quick. And that's where they have the little huts that you can sleep in. That's the Marengo route. Rongai route is kind of around the north end of the Marengo route, right? It has the same final ascent up to the ridge. It's not as scenic as the rest. Umboy on the south side, too hard, too quick. That's the most like one of the most advanced ways. The northern circuit, this is a way of kind of looping around Kilimanjaro and going up, is best for 9-day trips. So our personal recommendation is the Lemosho route, first recommendation, 8-day trip, and the Machame route, second recommendation. That's a 7-day trip, right? 2 recommended routes, 8 days Lemosho, 7 days Machame. You're going to see all sorts of different things. People will take you up different ways. These are definitively the ways to do it. I would say 80% of the people do an 8-day trip because the beginning of the Lemosho route is pretty magical, and you get to come across the Shira Plateau and see Kilimanjaro from afar. The longer you spend on your hike up, the higher your chance of making it, right? So this is that Lemosho route, right? So this is your starting point, your 6.5 days going up, day and a half going back down. So if you look at it, 2 nights in hotels on the front, 8 days, 1 night down. So that collectively makes 11 days and 10 nights of being in Tanzania. This is the 100% way, best way to do it. Okay. And this is what it kind of looks like if you kind of map it out. This like red line is like red to green is this is your 3.5 days. Your day 4 is here. Your day 5 here. Your day 6 Barafu camp, right? It's right up here. And this is that 3 miles in the middle of the night, and then to the summit. Watch the sunrise. Back down to your camp and down this other route called Mueca. Okay. I love this slide too, and I kind of highlighted some important things here. It's another way to look at it, right? This is that Lemosha route coming up. And what you'll notice is I drew red lines in between day 2 and 3, 4 and 5. The hard days in Kilimanjaro are the even days, right? Day 2, day 4, day 6 and 7, but generally 1, 3, 5, and 8 are the easier days, right? So just so you know, as you kind of make your way, if you want a copy of this map, just reach out and I can send you one without the red lines on it, right? So if you're a mountaineering type, like Mount Rainier, Denali, Aconcagua, you have some experience in real mountaineering types. Less than 1% of the people do a Lemosho route to the Western Breach or to Crater Camp. Okay. If you represent that type of person, there are a handful of companies, including Embark, that do that trip. But just reach out if you or have questions about that specifically. 99% of people do not do the Western Breach. Can you afford it? Climbing Kilimanjaro is not cheap, right? On an 8-day trip, the permit is close to $1,200 per person. It is not cheap, right? So can you afford it? So let's look at the cost. This is a really important one. High level estimates. Climb 2,400, 2,500 to 4,000, 5,000. You'll see all different levels, right? International flights, 1,000 to 2,500, right? Visa, insurance, 300 to 600, right? Tips, 4 to 600 if you choose to tip, right? Wildlife safari, I'm not even going to put that in there. It doesn't make sense to even do that. So your average trip Kilimanjaro, and you can tweak it in slight different ways, is $5,500 to $6,500 per person, right? This assumes you have the gear and you are not going on a wildlife safari, right? So this is just a high level estimate of what it is. Sure, there's ways to do the trip for a day less, and maybe you get some flight that you have points or something like that, or you don't tip. There's ways to do it, but in general, that's what you're going to pay, right? Fair wages, number 8. We're getting close to the end here. Will you work for with a company that's part of the Kilimanjaro Porters Assistance Project, right? Well, what is that, right? Well, it's an organization, an NGO that supports porters, which are the most important thing on the Kilimanjaro. Porters make your trip possible. Porters carry gear, food, toilets, resupply, right? If you're food, there's a resupply group that comes up the mountain, usually with quality companies, frozen meat and food, resupplies the group at day 4 via the Umbwe route, right? Your trip helps support a large local economy. This supports the economy. This puts kids in school. This does everything. This feeds people, right? Porters deserve respect, safety, lodging, and fair wages. So if you want to respect porters and be part of that, Kilimanjaro Porters Assistance Project. On our podcast, Type 2 Fun, we have a podcast called Type 2 Fun. You can find it anywhere. There's an interview with the woman who runs this now. So this is advocating for fair wages and ethical treatment by all companies climbing Kilimanjaro. Not all companies are part of this. So take that into consideration. Super important. Here they are. Most porters are carrying 30 pounds of your gear and 10 pounds of their own gear. They need to take clothes up the mountain, right? They need sleeping bags and things like that. So that's what's happening, right? Here's another good one. Time. Do you have enough time? Okay. Let's look at that. Kilimanjaro climb with hotels, 11 days, 10 nights. That excludes flights, which will be a day in each direction. So you're probably 12, 13 days out of the country, right? With just Kili climb, right? Kilimanjaro climb with wildlife safari to Serengeti, 15 day to 14 nights, count days flying there, 17 days. So do you have that? If you're going to go do a safari after the climb, do you have the time? That much time? Here's a pro tip for working people, right? Leave on a Friday morning, fly the KLM flight to Amsterdam, switches and goes to Kilimanjaro Airport. You arrive Saturday night, Kilimanjaro Airport. You rest on Sunday, meet the guides, gear check, everything. You climb Monday, 8-day trip, come back down the following Monday. You fly home Tuesday night. That's the same flight that brought you in, and you get home on Wednesday. That's the fastest way to do it there. That's not rushing, that feels good. Or organize on weeks with major holidays like 4th of July, Labor Day, Christmas, New Year's. If you only have 2 weeks off of work, that's kind of the different ways to structure it, right? Gear, number 10. Do you have all the gear or will you need to buy? Let's look at that, right? So looking at this doesn't look like much, but it actually is when you kind of put it all together. This is your gear for Kilimanjaro. This is your 30 pounds of gear that you're going to carry up. This is all you're going to wear up on the mountain, right? And usually it looks a lot like this. You'll get a gear list like this. If any of you want a copy, you can reach out. I'll send it to you. Ponchos, 2 pairs of hiking shorts, 1 pair of synthetic trekking pants, warmer hiking pants, right? Trekking poles, things like that, sun hat, warm hat. So you put it all together. It's kind of a lot of stuff if you don't have the gear, right? So let's look at it. Gear can be expensive. We know that. 0-degree bag, $400, $500. Down jacket, 200. That's a low estimate. Boots, 200, 250. Trekking poles, 150. North Face duffel. You add all that up, you don't have that. That's $1,000 to $2,000 worth of gear, right? Remember, I didn't put that on the original. I did not put that on the original estimate. So that's another thing to take into consideration. So this depends upon what you don't have. Some companies have rentals. You can save money by renting a sleeping bag if you don't have a 0-degree or 5, maybe 10. Trekking poles, duffel. It's really, really important, right? This is another thing. Gear needs to be tested and used. There's nothing worse, and I have seen this before, I swear, when people pull boots out of an actual box. You need to hike with those boots. Those boots should have at least 100 miles on them, no exceptions. You do not want a blister on Kilimanjaro to ruin your investment and time, right? Know how to put on gaiters. I've seen a lot of people show up, don't even start looking at a gaiter. Put your gaiters on. Make sure they're on correctly, right? Use trekking poles. How do trekking poles work? Your jacket. You always know somebody's inexperienced when they show up and they start a trek and they put a big puffy jacket on, because within 3 minutes, you're going to get super hot. So use your gear, right? And also have experience sleeping outside, right? There are some people that show up to try to do this trip and never step outside. Most of these trips are going to require you to sleep outside for 7 nights. All right, that's closer to 30 minutes. I'm not done here. This is what it looks like with the sun rising over Africa, right? Look at where the clouds are. Yeah? This is the top of Africa. It is an amazing experience. It will change your life, right? But a lot of us come to also see the glacier, yeah, to see the melting glaciers on top of Kilimanjaro. They're still magical. They're still huge. They're still big. But it's fun to come see and experience those glaciers as well. And this is that view of the top of Kilimanjaro, just kind of from that now down from below, from the town of Moshi. Um, it's amazing. So remember, right after this, I have this live Q&A. If you want to get on and check immediately that, couple of things though, more things. Um, Really important. That guy right there in the back left, 400 plus summits, been doing it for like 35 years. Frederick Tarimo, dear friend of mine. Gowden's right here, 20 plus years on here. Freddie, first Tanzanian to summit Aconcagua. So this is my family. This is my home. This is my wife who I proposed to on Kilimanjaro right there. So we live and breathe everything. You can always reach out to us if you have any questions. Remember, this YouTube page, 50 plus videos, lots of different playlists at Kilimanjaro. Reach out if you have any questions or want to know. I mean, I try to make this short. There's a lot longer videos that I have online as well, with all different topics on Kilimanjaro. ClimbMountKilimanjaro.org, right? So thank you everyone for your tonight, for your everything tonight. If you want to meet me on that other link that is in the chat, I will see you over there in just a minute. Thanks again. Have a great night.